So thank you to all of you for coming along today. And now I'd like you to welcome Mr. Rémi Racine, who's chairman of the board of CBC Radio-Canada. Thank you very much, Rebecca, and welcome to the 2014 annual public meeting taking place today here in la Maison de Radio-Canada, and welcome to all of you who are participating in the live webcast.
You an opportunity to participate in the role of your public broadcaster. So thank you for your interest. Plusieurs membres du Conseil sont présents.
The members of the board are here with us today, and I'd like to thank them for their presence. We can say that the last year has been a complicated one. We've talked a great deal about the work of the board, and some have suggested that there has been political interference in the direction that the corporation has taken. But I'd like to reassure you that the board of directors always discusses its matters in the interests of the corporation as set out in the Broadcasting Act, and it respects its oversight role. It keeps its eyes open, but it does not intervene. It certainly does not interfere in decisions linked to programming or the day-to-day management of the public broadcaster.
New 5-year strategic plan, a space for us all. It's a plan that calls for nothing short of a transformation.
Société.
The objective is to reinforce the relevance of CBC Radio-Canada and its presence in the life of Canadians. In order to do this, the public broadcaster will consolidate its links with Canadians by offering them content to which they can gain access in the way, in the place and the moment when they wish to do that. And this digital shift is part of our strategy, but we are not intending to abandon our services and conventional media as well. If we want to do this type of change, it's not going to be easy, and it's clear that this effort will ask a great deal of all of us. Canadians and our listeners have to be reassured. In such a large, diverse country as ours, the public broadcaster has the additional responsibility of making the right choices, and the board is certainly fully aware of that. Between now and 2020, the measures announced in our strategy will mean that CBC Radio-Canada will be a more flexible, agile organisation, and it will be financially viable.
We'll have the right infrastructure, services and business model in place to thrive in a dynamic and increasingly global media landscape. Sur ce, j'aimerais passer la parole à notre PDG, président.
And I'd now like to give the floor to our CEO and President, Mr. Hubert Lacroix, who will talk more about the transformation that we are carrying out as we implement our new strategy, and we are creating this space for all of us. So thank you very much, Hubert. I am now giving you the floor. Thank you very much, Rebecca and Rémi, and thank you for taking the time to be here, and welcome to those watching online across the country. Of course, people are very passionate about this place and its future. They're very interested in that, and that's a good thing. It's important. The mobilization that we have seen over the last few days have clearly shown to what an extent Canadians are profoundly attached to CBC Radio-Canada. And that is important because we are counting even more than ever on your interest in your public broadcaster at this turning point. We're going through a difficult period. It's chaotic, and there's lots of different challenges involved. There are changes which are disturbing our industry, and these are not letting up. It's relentless. We are totally in the midst of a workforce adjustment. This is a necessary consequence of the changes which are occurring in the media landscape and the pressure that is coming down on all of our revenue streams. As with all the other conventional broadcasters, such as the BBC, ABC France Télévision, and even RT in Ireland, we have to face unstable business revenues which are moving towards the digital, and the parliamentary appropriations are going down. And we also have to deal with a broken business model. It's no longer working. That is why we need to take steps to become financially viable, financially sustainable. Now, to be quite simple about this, our operating costs are much higher than all of our income, all of our revenue. Last week, close to 400 of our colleagues were notified that their positions would be eliminated. We knew that that was coming, but it didn't make it any easier. We announced this back in June. And whatever people say about my intentions, I find it very difficult to make this sort of announcement. But we have to get going, and we have to deliver our plan for the future. But there's lots of events swirling around us. There's theories of conspiration, insinuations of political pressure, personal attacks, scandals, and critical comments that are often virulent and very bitter. So before I go any further, I'd like to address a few of these issues. What has frustrated me the most in the last few weeks is the idea that I'm somehow here to hurt the public broadcaster and what it stands for, in particular for French speakers, francophones in this country, and that my objective is to dismantle it. Like many of you in the room, I grew up with Bobino, Fonfreluche, The Nature of Things, Henri Bergeron, Bernard de Ron. And I even worked within CBC Radio-Canada for several years in one of the departments. CBC Radio-Canada is part of who I am. And as you perhaps know, I have two young daughters who are 3 and 6. I took up this job because I wanted to make sure that the public broadcaster would be part of their lives as well, and that they would be able to grow up being well-rounded, well-informed, and have entertainment with this type of quality programming from the public broadcaster. That's what we're able to do.
We lose ourselves. I know that. That's why I come to work every day to make it better. The decisions that we have made have not always been easy. They've not always been obvious. And they surely have not always been popular. But they've always been made in the long-term interest of CBC Radio-Canada. You don't have to be behind a microphone or in front of a camera or actually live in a newsroom to care about our public broadcaster. Yes, I wear a suit, I work on the 12th floor here of this building, and I care. I care a lot. On the Jian Gomeshi situation, all I can say right now is that we are making every effort to be as open and transparent as possible under the circumstances. You know that an independent investigation is underway. It will look into any and all allegations of impropriety in our workplace that have arisen as a consequence or as a result of this recent controversy. And it will cover everyone and anyone from unionized employees to managers to executives. It will also look at our processes. We will continue to inform employees and the Canadian public as the situation unfolds. Moi aussi, je vais parler maintenant.
And I too would like to talk about the issue of our independence. I wish to be extremely clear about this. CBC Radio-Canada is managed totally independently from the government, period. The public interest that we defend goes beyond private interests or the interests of the government of the day, whichever government that may be. This public interest is strong and independent. And it is on that sole principle alone upon which CBC Radio-Canada is run. From day-to-day management and our editorial choices and the defining of our strategies only depends on us. We take our decisions freely, free of any political interference.
In a very difficult transformation process. Its aim is to help us meet the challenges of an incredibly fast changing media environment to which no conventional broadcaster is immune. This is difficult. It requires courage. The pace of change is relentless. Our employees are strong and resilient, and their commitment to this place and its values is truly inspiring, and I thank them for that. And the events of the past weeks and months, what they have done, they've made even clearer to me that we must evolve and that there's urgency in this evolution. Now more than ever, we need a strong public broadcaster, a source of content that helps shape our identity and enrich our democratic life. I've been carrying this message now for 7 years, and it's not going to change. We have a duty to ensure that CBC Radio-Canada remains a public service at the heart of the daily lives of each and every one of us. We have a duty to ensure that our children and grandchildren can count on this public meeting space that has played such a vital role in our industry and in our history. Certains de nos critiques pensent autrement.
Some of our critics think differently. They disagree. They simply believe that our past success will be a guarantee for the future. They really are anchored in status quo. They have no suggestions to put forward to take this digital shift or to adapt to current trends. And as I will explain in more detail in a few minutes, those days are gone. The world has moved on. And in this type of annual meeting, that's a real proof in the pudding. People come along with their tablets, with their smartphones, with their computers, and one day there will be no one left in the room. And the question and answer session is available and it's accessible to someone in Yellowknife, just as it's accessible to you here in the room. So our discussions have to be based on the future and the choices to be made, which are based in facts. And we cannot just continue to discuss what we were in the past. And despite everything that's happened, we have accomplished some extraordinary things since our last APM in Toronto last year. Amongst other things, of course, we have broadcast the Sochi Olympic Winter Games, the most watched Olympics in Canadian history. More than 33 million Canadians, 97% of us, have actually tuned in to these games. 11 million of us, 11 million of Canadians followed these online or on mobile platforms. And we have broadcast the FIFA World Cup. And we've noted that it was important to have mobile programming included. We've started working to offer new services such as Q.ca, new apps and original web content in order to complement our programming.
We have reinvented our footprint in our community presence in Halifax, and we'll soon do the same thing in locations around the country like Moncton, Windsor, and Gander, Grand Falls. We've led a successful bid for the 2018-2020 Olympics with Bell and Rogers Media. We kept Canadians informed during national tragedies in Moncton, Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, and very recently in Ottawa. We led comprehensive news coverage of provincial elections in New Brunswick.
Il va y avoir une période de questions après. Puis on vous entend pas parce qu'on est diffusé.
There'll be a period of questions afterwards, and you're not actually broadcast at the moment. You'll be able to come up to the mic later if we can just continue just now.
Coverage, merci Rebecca, of provincial
Thank you, Rebecca.
everyone in Quebec, and of municipal elections across the country. And through it all, we've actually delivered a balanced budget. And with respect to our financial results for the year which ended March 31, 2014, or the first quarter that we ended on June 30, 2014, if you have an interest in them, I suggest that you go to our website where you'll find our annual report, our numbers, and management's discussion and analysis thereon. And if you have questions on them, we'll be happy to take them in the Q&A session in a few seconds. Donc, si vos résultats financiers ou nos résultats financiers...
So if these financial results interest you, then you can consult our corporate website and you'll be able to find our consolidated statement for the year that closed on the 31st of March 2014 and also for the first quarter of 2014-2015. And you'll also find the analysis from the board on these results, and you'll be able to put questions on this in the time to come. Now, if we're talking about the financial portrait, I also have to talk about what's happening in our industry, and I'm going to talk about the new definition of our industry. We're now not in time anymore where in our industry we had TVS, CTV and Global. That's no longer the case. There are new players coming in, Vice News, for example, and news services as well. Launched in December 2013, Vice News, they already have more than 34 foreign bureaus. 7 more have been announced. And their YouTube site of Vice News is drawing in well over 100 130 million viewers per month. In October, Vice Media and Rogers announced the launch of a new 24-hour TV channel in Canada in 2015. And then there's the phenomenon of TV on the go, the OTT such as Netflix, but these types of sites are proliferating. In the past few weeks, CBS and HBO have both announced new services. In Canada, Rogers and Shaw recently launched their so-called Show Me service, and Bell Media just announced its project called Project Latte. And in our province, we've got La Presse, which has become La Presse Plus, and now the Gazette. And then also we're going to have the same thing with the Toronto Star. So traditional, conventional newspapers are going over to the mobile newspapers. And Google has recently invested $500 million in wearable technology so that this information, any type of information that's created, can actually become even more mobile. As the public broadcaster, we have a responsibility to closely follow our citizens' preferences and industry trends and stay relevant, whatever the platform or the size of the screen. And therein lies our dilemma. We need to accompany our audience towards digital media, digital networks, while recognizing that 89% of Canadians still watch TV live sitting in their living room based on the programming that we deliver to them, and they spend 27 hours a week doing this. So what will be the results of this development in 10 years' time? No one can accurately predict that. But one thing I do know is that there will be a public broadcaster, and our vision is to have it connected even more deeply with each one of you. Some content will remain in its current format, others will surprise you, will be produced based on this concept of mobility and intimacy that we are seeking. It will be more than just a simple extension or add-on to our traditional broadcasting services. We're going to have to reinvent these concepts of immediacy, interaction, and impact. We will use modern media technology to understand the stories that are of interest to you. And soon, you will be invited to come into the center of a conversation with others across the country that share those points of view or share those interests within this public space where you will really feel that you're at home. That is why our new strategy is aiming to multiply and intensify connections with Canadians and between Canadians. As citizens of one of the largest national territories in the world, we expect our public broadcaster to provide a space that unifies us in our values, our beliefs, and our identity. Reaffirming our desire for vibrant public broadcasting is also about opting for an investment that is responsible and sustainable, that pays off for our country as a whole. Maintaining a voice we can call our own through a strong public broadcaster is a choice that Canadians make together. It's up to us. Thank you, and thank you, Rebecca. Thank you very much to Hubert and Rémi.